while I get the zapper so that I can do the stuff, can you do some maths for me in your heads? If you've got a transmission bill from Arqiva, can you think of that number in your heads? Don't shout it out. If you haven't got a transmission bill, then try and imagine what the BBC's transmission bill is for radio. Then add a naught to that, and then keep that number in your head. And then take 17% off that. Go, you're good. We'll come back to that. Engineering problems can be a bit complicated. And if you've ever tried to explain something complicated to someone else in your station, someone in sales or programming, or worst of all, your CEO, then you'll know that even if you know it's really, really complicated, they just glaze over. So the first time you deploy the first acronym, you get that look. So I want to put you in their shoes and imagine that you've lost them. As the adjudicator at OTA BTS, I do whatever the undertakings say I should do unless the CMA overrules me. Don't glaze. Stay with me for a few minutes and I'll explain why that sentence could keep a radio station in revenue and in profit, and why it matters to you because of that. So, what has the transmission adjudicator ever done for me? Now, put your hand up if you weren't working in radio in 2008. Jeepers. You guys may need a history lesson. Put your hand up if you were. You see, you're so old, you've probably forgotten what was going on in 2007 and 2008. Back then, we had two transmission companies. Imagine that, competing with each other for your radio transmission business, for broadcast transmission. And they were Arqiva and National Grid Wireless. Remember, they were the other ones. And National Grid Wireless was put up for sale, and the people who came along and bought it, surprise, was Arqiva. And the Financial Times reckoned that the value of that, can you imagine the value of that? £2.5 billion. And some people in the radio industry, in this room, muttered the word monopoly. And so the Competition Commission, the competition authorities were brought in to work out what to do. And they had to come up with some remedies to stop customers being harmed. And what popped up at the other end was a set of legally binding promises that Arqiva made to protect their customers. And those were the undertakings. Now, the undertakings, next bit of jargon, they're just a complicated set of rules that Arqiva signed up to, promises that they made to try and help protect you, and give the sort of conditions that there would be if there'd been a competitive market still. So while we're on jargon, let's knock off the next bit. CMA, Competition and Markets Authority, like with 3 and Vodafone at the moment, and they had to set the rules, over 82 pages of rules, and the CMA's job is to help people, businesses and the UK economy by promoting competitive markets and tackling unfair behaviour. So in this situation, they had to make sure the undertakings protected radio station customers. Now, at the start, I mentioned that 70%. Back in 2008, the key clause, or a key clause in the undertakings, was that every radio station with a broadcast transmission contract got 17% off the bill instantly as a price cut. And to put that in scale, the radio industry here in the room pays Arqiva each year about £70 million a year. So if you then model what a 17% discount would mean, it would mean you were paying about £14 million more if it wasn't for the undertakings and the transmission adjudicator. So that's one thing the transmission adjudicator's done for you, just one. So what do they say? Well, you know that disclaimer at the end of ads, So this presentation comes with a disclaimer. Everything in this presentation is governed by a necessary caveat. If there's any difference between what I say and the undertakings take precedence. But in summary, some of the headlines are, if you've got an existing contract and it comes to the end, you get the right to renew it at the same terms and conditions that were originally negotiated. And for some contracts, even now, those are contracts and terms and the price that were negotiated in a competitive market when you had NGW and Arqiva. You also get a second price. So Arqiva then work out a second price based on the costs of the kit you're buying and the place it's being broadcast from. And then they follow a formula in the undertakings that aims to make sure you get a fair price. Then, if you're in a contract and the performance was really bad, sort of performance that ordinarily you'd terminate and go to another supplier, but there isn't one. So there's a thing called super credits, which is like penalty scale money back for you if it reached that point. So, day to day, what do I do? Well, keep an open door. So talk a lot to customers to find out what's bothering them. And if what's bothering them cuts across the undertakings, then I get bothered and do something. Check that the 82 pages of the undertakings are working. And all the time, try and make sure that all of the stakeholders, including Arqiva, are treated fairly. I know what you're thinking. What happens if the adjudicator goes mad or bad? Well, that's where the CMA comes back in, because they can overrule anything that I do or any adjudicator does. And also, they're the only people who can step back in and change the undertakings. So, what have we got left? OTA BTS. That's just the Office of the Adjudicator Broadcast Transmission Services. That's me and 3 other people who do part-time work to help make sure I do the stuff properly. So let's go back to the sentence and see if it now makes sense. So as the adjudicator at OTA BTS, I do whatever the undertakings say I should do, unless the CMA overrules me. Hey, thank you for not glazing over. I knew you wouldn't.